أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد.
Hassan, who's in Slough. Hello, Hassan.
Firstly, I'm just a bit wary that quite a lot of people, especially non-Muslims in Britain and France, might be more fearful of Muslims and Islam, even though Islam does fiercely condemn terrorism and these atrocities we saw last night. So I'll just let non-Muslims know that they should not be afraid of Muslims. And the Quran does say that the killing of life is like killing the whole of mankind, and the saving of life is like saving the whole of mankind. So they should, when they look at a Muslim, they should feel safe and secure rather than a sense of fear.
And Hassan, thank you for that word of caution there.
But let's talk to Hassan in Slough. Hi, Hassan.
Hi, Beverley. In answer to one of your previous questions, should the way of life actually change as a result of this? And the answer is no. Because what the terrorists want is for people to fear Islam and to fear Muslims and to change their way of life. As soon as people start doing that, then they've actually won, the terrorists have won the psychological war. Now, there is another group that have the same outcome, which is the far right, and my fear is, in terms of a reaction, it is possible that certainly within 1 to 2 years, there might be elements of the far right that may go into a mosque and shoot Muslims. So that's my fear of the far right. Now, I'm involved. So what should be done? I'm involved with Prevent, the government strategy to mitigate any future terrorism, whether it be it Muslim terrorism or the far right. And I think this policy should be implemented more vigorously now, more than ever.
What, you mean the Prevent policy?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about it, Hassan, because we do hear about Prevent, but how does it actually manifest itself in a tangible way to people and communities? Well,
it manifests itself through training. So I was involved. I was trained to be a trainer because I'm a governor of a local school. We're involved in what is known as RAP training workshop to raise awareness of Prevent. So I've trained teachers, and you have similar trainers that would train doctors and nurses as well in the NHS. But I certainly think more of this should actually be made public so that the positive elements of Prevent, positive cases, should be out there rather than the negativity we do see in the media. Can I make a final point with regards to Syria intervention? I've held the view that we should have intervened in Syria, but if David Cameron does go in, I think there's 100% certainty that there will be reaction. There will be innocent people killed in London, in England. Yeah. With that in mind, is it wise to actually intervene in Syria, knowing that this will be the outcome?
Well, that's going to be on everybody's minds, isn't it, this week? And it's going to be on the politicians' minds in the next few weeks as well. Hassan, thank you.
7-3. Hassan is in Slough. Hassan, what do you think success looks like in the short term?
Well, success is, and this is the first of my 3 points, success for the terrorists would be filling...
I'm just hearing, let me interrupt you there, Hassan. I'm just hearing some reports from France that police have arrested the so-called most wanted man in the world, Salah Abdel Salam. We'll be getting more detail on that as and when it emerges, but that's some breaking news for you at 4 minutes after 11 on November the 16th. Reports from France that police have arrested their chief suspect in the last few minutes. And we'll return to that story, Hassan, probably imminently, so be warned that this may curtail your contribution.
No problem, I understand that, and that's the success that the terrorists were not looking for, which was a quick arrest of that mastermind. But, yes, a device resistant to suspicion, and you'll recall yesterday when the people who were holding a vigil in Paris scurried away thinking that there was another attack imminent, and the ISIS people would have laughed at that because that's exactly the type of response they're looking for, instilling a sense of fear. Now, the other success...
But it doesn't make us wrong to be frightened, does it? This is where we're going to move the conversation in the next hour, so it's very helpful that you've made that point initially, because I am frightened, and I don't think that I can help that. So I don't want to give them succour, and I'm certainly not going to be turning upon a woman in a headscarf down at the supermarket or anything like that, but I am frightened.
Yeah, and I think based on that, the far right will actually use that because what's likely to happen is that they too will fall into the terrorist trap and actually possibly start targeting Muslims as they metamorphosize from lone gunmen to organised white terrorist groups. Now, secondly, success for us will be, so for example, non-Muslims, you do not have to change the way you live, because the moment you start changing the way you live and start respecting Muslims, then the terrorists have actually won. Why not visit a local mosque? You visit your local mosque, ask questions, that will achieve more mutual understanding. My third point, from a Muslim point of view, what can we do other than just openly condemning terrorism? And I think that if Muslims come across conversations that seem to be extremist or radical, they should actually refer those people to Prevent. And it's not just Muslims. I mean, there are white extremists as well who could be referred on to Prevent. And I have to stress this because there's either been no publicity or negative publicity about the Prevent policy. And people need to know that this is a non-criminal process. So once people are referred on, the police are not involved. The intelligence services will not have a list. They'll not be on the list. And the reason why I need to mention this is because there have been fierce critics of Prevent going up and down the country, scaring Muslim audiences about what the government is trying to do. Now, a few months ago, I debated on local radio station with those fierce critics of Prevent, members of Hizb ut-Tahrir, and another guy who had meetings organised by Cage. And they actually believe that the government is actively trying to destroy Islam and that the intelligence services are just monitoring Muslims 24/7, and that is not true. So what I'm trying to do now is to organise a local debate in Slough to include those critics of Prevent and Prevent officers and so on, so that we can actually move forward together, because we really should be on the same side.
It's funny, because I can tell you what will happen. There was an event on Friday night, I don't know if you're aware of it, featuring some of the, if you like, supporters of Islamic State's stated aims, possibly not of their tactics. These people haven't broken any laws, but they were on something called a Muslim Q&A panel, some of the people you'd expect, a couple of people I've debated with personally, actually. And you can imagine how that is being covered I've seen it on the Daily Mail website today. So I sometimes, Hassan, even by trying to take on these people, you paint a target on your own back by essentially treating them with anything other than contempt and disgust.
True, and I really do think that dialogue needs to happen, because they're actually, and I believe that they're actually misleading a lot of the Muslim audiences. And
but then it reaches the newspapers, and these people are portrayed, and they're members of prescribed organisations previously, and they're portrayed as being somehow sympathetic to or supporters of Islamic State. Not just portrayed, they are. They're on the record as wanting a caliphate. They're on the record as believing that God's law will always transcend man's. And however tiny a minority they are, a lot of people come away from coverage of an event like that, and the reason I mention it, possibly an event like the one you're planning, they come away convinced that these people speak for your faith and everybody in it.
Yeah, and part of the problem has actually been the way the media perceives them. Now, with Hizb ut-Tahrir, what is interesting, you probably not know this, but one of the Hizb ut-Tahrir members was actually murdered by ISIS. And the response from Hizb ut-Tahrir when he looked at the website was exactly how all of us would respond, was complete condemnation, that they were thugs and barbarians. They would not, in this case, they would not say, oh, it was foreign policy and all that rubbish. It was a clear condemnation. It was murder. So one of their guys were actually murdered by ISIS. So really, theoretically, we really should be on the same side here.
Yes.
So I think it's more reason why that dialogue has to take place, because I'm involved in Prevent, as you may know.
Yes.
And when we talk about Prevent, or the government talks about Prevent, it's to a converted audience. And when the critics of Prevent talk to Muslim audiences, it's to a converted audience as well. But there needs to be some dialogue. And I've been trying for the last couple of, 3 months to get the positive responses from Hizb ut-Tahrir and from Cage, and it's been very, very difficult. But, it needs to happen.
It does need to happen. Good luck to you, Hassan. Thank you, as always.
Thank you, Hassan in Slough. What are you telling your children, Hassan?
Hi, Nick. Well, there's two things. Firstly, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and when we watch the news, she will these things. What makes them do it? And I keep on saying that they are evil. There are evil people in the world, and we have to ensure that we do good and help them when these situations do arise. Now, when I had that conversation recently, she did look at me in bewilderment, because she then referred to the downing of the Russian airliner 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Because obviously in that situation, how can you help dead passengers? You can't. So I was a bit flummoxed by that, but I reiterated that there are bad people who do not fear God. They are evil, and we have to be good. Now, the second point is that I'm a governor of a local Muslim school in Slough, and they held a radicalisation seminar last week, which was very well reported. It was very, very positive. And one thing that they do there is to encourage discussion and debate, because you would have heard those who are critics of Prevent, the Govern Prevent strategy, they say that Prevent shuts down any form of debate whatsoever, whereas in fact it is the opposite, because I'm actually involved in Prevent, and discussion, debate, foreign policy, whatever, is actually encouraged. And in that Muslim school, they do allow classes or situations where young children can actually discuss what's going on in the world, and I think that's healthy.
I think that sounds tremendous. Hassan, thank you for that.
Mohammed's in Islington. Mohammed, what would you like to say?
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Very well, mate. What's on your mind?
So there's several points, and I'm going to try my best to answer your question. But before I do, I want to say, as a Muslim, my heart goes out, and I've prayed. I prayed at night. I went to the mosque with other Muslims, and we prayed for all the French citizens. My heart and condolences to their families. I looked up on the Guardian website, and I saw that they had the names of some of the people that died. There was a lawyer from my friend's university that passed away, a Frenchman.
From the LSE, that's where I went as well.
You know, these are innocent people, and those people had there was no right to take their life. That's number one. Number two, I've got a message for Daesh. If they're listening, you are not going to separate Muslims and non-Muslims. The thing that makes the UK powerful and in Great Britain is the fact that we can be different. We can have coffee together. We can work together. We can live together, and society works. I love my white friends, and and the ones that are non-Muslims, I like the fact that they can give me a different perspective in life and look at things in life differently. Our society works, so don't try to dismantle it, because it's not going to work. Third point I'd like to make is, you asked the question, what do they want? Absolutely. They do want to disintegrate our society. They want us to look at each other with hostility and hate, and we should never succumb to that. Muslims and non-Muslims are like, whether you're of faith or not, we all got red blood cells, we've all got children, we've got families, we've got friends, we're united. We as a community have to stand up and say, no, you don't speak for us. I'd also like to say to some of the previous callers who I agreed with, and I'd love to hug that lady who said what she did about the British Muslims, that, it touched me what she said, and what you said a lot as well, that British Muslims, we're desperate to scream out. I've gone on social media, I'm a professional, I've gone on social media, I've made my posts public, and I've denounced what these Daesh people have done, these psychos, and I've gone on to even more right-wing kind of EDL sites, etc., to say, guys, this isn't Islam, because I'm trying to make sure people know that Muslims condemn it. But I'll tell you where we are crap. We're crap at PR. So when I went to the mosque, there was plenty of Muslims out there, and we were all sad and angry at what happened to the Parisians, Europeans, the killing, Lebanon, etc. But we don't go out to look for kind of like a PR. Does this make sense? We're not looking for a PR campaign of, look at us, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're angry and we want to express that. On my final point, I'd like to say to you, James, and to the callers, is please, let's try our best. There are young Muslims out there who are susceptible to brainwashing. So what we need to do as community is make them feel included. How do we do that? Something that, James, people haven't touched upon, and it's an extension of a point, is that, I'm a second-generation British Muslim. I'm well-educated, as are my brothers and sisters, etc. But one of the things I'm finding with a lot of young, not just Muslim youth, Asian youth in general, is that their parents' generation often can't communicate with them in English. And what happens is, when you have young people or teenagers who can't really communicate with their parents, they can't have those conversations. And obviously that's not to say that's for everyone. I know that there was a Muslim caller who said that she has conversations with her children, and I'm so glad to hear that. And I encourage, parents, start interacting with your children, get to know what's going on, how they're doing things. I'm speaking to the Muslim community as a Muslim brother here. Look, we need to take action. We need to make sure that our youths don't feel disenfranchised. Our youth still, if there is a disagreement, if they don't agree with some kind of political stance or foreign policy, that they exercise their rights as a Brit. Not allowing Daesh to make it seem as though, yes, because they're doing this, that means we've got to kill this. No. Ask yourself in your heart, what does the Quran say as well? And I'll give you an unambiguous quote, I can't say the verse, but I think the chapter's 25, where Muhammad, peace be upon him, is told, do not harm non-Muslim. Sorry, there's no ambiguity there. But I concur with you, James, that people do indeed use religion to kind of like put forward their twisted agendas. But we need to be intelligent, we need to be sophisticated. You know, I'm a full-time worker, I work really hard, but now I feel, you know, I do feel a personal responsibility that these psychopaths, these Daesh psychopaths, are using my faith in an incorrect way to justify their nasty means. So, you know, in a previous life when I was a teacher, I remember even 3 or 4 years ago, I'd ask students, you know, do you understand how the democratic system works? Try and make friends that are white. Try and make friends that are black. Try and make friends that are non-Muslim. So you get to learn and diversify your understanding. And this is what we need to be encouraging our young British Muslims and non-British Muslims. And the other thing, James, sorry, I'm kind of going on and on.
I'm loving it.
James,
Carry on.
James, the other thing I love being a Londoner and I love being a Brit is my next door neighbour. He's white. The whole family's white. Guess what? They come to my house for a curry. They come and ask my mum. We've got that unity. We've got that respect for culture, for food. You know, Daesh people don't like that. Well, guess what, Daesh? That ain't going to work because we as a community are going to stick by with each other. And what we also need to do, Brian, is when you got places up north, when you get
He's ruined it. He's ruined it all. Calling me Brian right at the end after one of the best calls we've taken in years. Mohammed, you fell at the final hurdle, mate.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Thanks so much for taking my call.
Hey, can I read you some of the reaction that you've already prompted?
Go on.
There you go. This is on Twitter, and text coming into the studio as well, 84850. That Muslim is a true friend of mine. That's someone who's chosen to describe themselves as white, 48, and Church of England. Please put Mohammed's call on the website. What a nice man Mohammed is. United we stand. What a brilliant caller. We need more like him. That's from Sue. Daniela just writes, here, here. And Andy in Maidstone says, this guy puts the great in Great Britain. Respect.
I'm so touched, and I hug them all virtually, and yourself. Keep up the great work.
Same to you.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون